Ja, we zijn nu live. Voilà. We zijn live. Ik ga de mensen. Het moet al. Oké. Alright, we are live. So welcome everyone to the Digital Hub. Today we have Emily Calderon, we have Rein Van Eijk. They will give their analysis and coaching techniques about their vision on hockey. Welcome, Emily and Rein.
Hi.
How you
Louis. The lady can start.
Emily, how are you doing? Are you happy to be back on the pitch now?
Yeah, finally, yeah, really happy. I went to see the boys today at training, and yeah, they look very happy to be able to train. Still on a little bit of a distance, but at least we're out and about. So yeah, really happy.
All right, and Rand, same for you.
Yeah, I just came back off the pitch. We're still getting used to the practicing with all the regulations in Germany. In Berlin, we're only allowed to practice with 7 players and 1 coach. And we have to keep our distance, so it's still a little bit of getting used to and a little bit of adjusting. But so far, it's a lot of fun to be back on the pitch again.
Yeah. One funny fact you already told me is that that the players can't pick up the balls themselves. So it's something that you have to do then, or something like that.
Yeah, so the players cannot touch the cones and the balls. So at least I'm getting in shape at the moment. Okay. Because I'm running all over the place, collecting all the balls and getting all the cones.
Yeah, all right. I hope that that will change soon then.
I hope so too.
Yeah, all right. Fantastic. Okay, Ryan, I think if I'm right, you're going to start off with your part of the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll just share my screen then. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us, LP, and everyone at the Osaka community. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our philosophy on how to prepare a team through the team talks and how to bring your principles and ideas across. First, a very short and brief introduction. Emily, if you would be so kind and introduce yourself, and then I will take over.
Yeah, so as I told you, I'm Emily Calderon. I'm Antwerp, Belgium based at the moment. For the coming season, I'll be the assistant coach of the Waterloo Ducks men's team. And I'm also the performance analyst of the Red Lions. So that's the 2 jobs I'm currently combining. In the past, as most of us, been through some youth schools as well at Victory and Dragons. So yeah, that's a bit where I'm at the moment.
Thank you. I'm very excited to hear about your activities at Ducks and the Belgian Association. I'm Rein Van Eijk. I'm 32 years old. I am from the Netherlands, but I'm currently based in Berlin, Germany. Over the last couple of years, I've been involved in several hockey projects. I'll skip through them. The last station before I came to Berlin, I was in Amsterdam. I was the head of youth. And the year before that, I was coaching the women's team of Hurley in the Hoofdklasse. At the moment, I'm the head coach of the first men's team at Berliner Hockey Club. We play at the highest level in Germany, indoor and outdoors. We have a couple of national team players, and on the side, and on top of that, I'm also the national team coach of the German national team under 18. See, there's a mistake. I'm coached the under 18 team, and I was the assistant coach or an analyst of the national indoor team at the European Championship this winter. First, I would like to, because we're we want to tell you all a little bit about how to prepare your team. I'd like to tell you a couple of things about my coaching principles. The main things that we're going to talk about tonight are the things that go on at the club, that are the scenes that we're going to discuss, for the reason that the national teams are in preparation on the Olympics and we cannot share too much about that. So due to privacy reasons and all of the above, we'll show a couple of clips about that. Nevertheless, feel free to ask anything concerning the national programs as well. A couple of my coaching principles, which are very important to me, is that I feel that you should always play to the strength of your players. So it is very important for me that I am not too stubborn about the way I feel that we should be playing based on a certain system. Rather, I feel that it's my job as a coach to consider what qualities my players have, and how I can bring out the best in them. I'm a firm believer that players should make their own decisions on the field because they are the ones who see the most. They are the ones who can anticipate. And as a coach, you're always going to be late if you're going to be playing like you're doing it on your PlayStation and just going left or right. And on top of that, I always feel that you should try to focus on the controllables. So make sure that you do the things and you focus on the things that you can always do. I have a couple of other things that are important to me as a coach, but the main things that form my philosophy when it comes to preparing a team are based on these three points. A lot of coaches, or when you start coaching at a young age, you get taught to teach a team to play in a certain system, either play with 4 in the back, 3 in the back, a center midfield player that's always there. However, based on these three main things, I am a firm believer that it makes more sense to replace a set system with principles, because principles are their guidelines, like their handles with which every player can cope in any situation, because they tend to always be true. Based on the team that you're coaching, your principles might differ. A principle could, for example, be wherever you are in the field, there should always be a pass option over a left foot to a person who's there on his forehand. That is a principle because it's something that's always true, it's controllable, and regardless of what a opponent does, you can always fulfill it. And based on this principle, it's also very easy to prepare your team and to look back at your video.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm a firm believer of working with principles, because what are you going to do if your opponent outsmarts you and you are stuck with your set system that you had and you cannot perform that? That's going to be that'll make you a little bit more insecure. Just to give you a brief introduction of a couple of principles that we have at our club. They could be different at any club. I would like to take you through the following loop. There's 4 stages during a game. It's the stage where we have controlled ball possession. There the focus is to be unpressable. Then there's the moment in the game where we lose the ball and everything for a short moment is unorganized. That's a turnover defensively. Then somewhere we still do not have the ball, but it's going to be organized. That's the non-ball possession part. And then we're going to be focused on what are we going to do when we retrieve the ball again. So how we're going to play our turnover offensively. Just to give a good assist to Emily, I'm going to show you a couple of these principles so you can understand how the work or the cooperation between a coach and a performance analyst would work in a situation like this. I'll show you 6 clips just to give you an idea of what these principles might be. For example, in ball position, one of our principles for being unpressable is that we want to play off of the ball side. That means we want to play away from the side where the ball is on. That means every single moment of the game, the team has to be occupied with being able to get the ball to the other side. And then it's up to the players to decide whether or not they will do that. That might look something like this. We are playing on the left side of the field. If we want to play off the ball side, the principle is that our main focus is to get to the right side of the field. We are the team that plays in navy blue with red. The main objective for the navy blue and red team is to get to the other side, because we know in this situation that the central defender of the light blue team is focused a little bit more on the ball side. So the objective for them, the principle is that they want to go to the other side. Regardless which way, there's already people on the other side. And therefore we are able to play off of the ball side because we've created this situation by position. Yeah. Another principle that we have in ball position is that we want to take the road of least resistance. The road of least resistance means that wherever we are, we want to be able to get into the circle, and not to get to the best spot, but first of all, get to the circle in the easiest of ways, even if that means you have to go over the baseline. That will look something like this. Once again, we're playing up with a navy blue and red team, same game. 1 second, that was my mistake. Yeah, so right now, can you see my cursor? Yeah. This player, if you would normally say you want to get the best shot on goal, he would play to this player here. However, we're saying we always want to play the road of least resistance. That means you want to go for an extra pass because there's fewer opponents that could touch the ball. Yeah. That could also mean in a situation like this, for example, even if in this situation it is a counterattack, the first ball could have been played over there, but we say we want to play the road of least resistance. That means make the extra effort to go over the outside. This way we will hurt our opponent a little bit more. It gets a little bit dangerous over there. Those will be principles in ball possession. If we lose the ball, our main objective is that we try to play counter press. So we lose the ball, we want to keep our opponent over there as quickly as possible. So wherever we lose the ball, that is where we want to keep our opponent. So we lose the ball, main objective, principle, keep them over there, play gegenpress, play counter press. They're not allowed to leave that part of the field. So as you can see, people are not running back. We are all collapsing on the ball to keep them there. If we're not able to do that, we say if they break out, we have to break the play off. So if we lose the ball and we cannot play this counter pressing, now we just have to break down the play. So make sure we get a stop. So they had a chance to break out. We said then we have to break it down. Ball possession, non-ball possession. So if you have to defend, we say that it's important to always defend 4 different lines. That is the ball goal line, the ball line, so where the ball is on the field, the line to you and your defender, And then there's the press line. So from what angle are you going to come? On the left side of the field, we want to come frontal, right side from the inside, and then we have the other 4 lines. So for example, the player with number 7 down here has to defend 4 lines, defend this line, be able to defend the line to the goal. And this for every player on the entire field. This player doesn't defend the ball goal line because it also has to defend his player and can then move a little bit. So that's how we have a couple of principles that also go when we do not have the ball. And then that's what we look at when we are trying to defend. A principle when we win the ball is that we always play a first pass, so we don't want to be running any counterattack, and we want to play high up the field in the middle. So the light blue team is attacking. If we would intercept the ball, first thing we want to do is play a pass and play high up the field in the middle. So those 2 things are our main principles by which we play, and that we can always do wherever we are on the field. So 4 phases. Every phase obviously has more subparts beneath that, but those are a couple of principles that we work with. The most important part then is, of course, how are we going to get the team to understand these principles and to work with these principles? How are we going to prepare our team to work with the things that we want to do? I've shown you, this is our week layout, for example, at our club team. It's very important to show you this because in Germany we play double headers. So we play Saturday, Sunday, which is a little bit like when you play with a national team in a tournament where you also have 2 games in 2 days, a couple of usually. On Tuesday, we have a debrief. We will talk about that a little bit later. We practice and we just want to improve our last weekend's performance. Wednesday, we mainly work on ourselves. And on Thursday, we start with preparing for the weekend. So we brief our team, we inform them on how does our opponent play. We have a tactical practice, and then we announce the squad that we're going to play with. On a tournament, this would be maybe the night before a game, where you're going to have this team talk and then announce your team. On Friday, we have a day off. We do that on purpose. We'll go into that a little bit later, why we do that. And then there's game day, on which we might present to get the match plan, if we haven't done that on Thursday already. We have a team talk, which are 2 different things. Then we have a game. And then at night, we have a debrief. So we look back at our team, back at the game plan, what worked, how did we do, and the things that we agreed upon. And then we go to bed, we sleep in our hotel. Next morning, once again, we have a brief. So we inform the team how we're going to handle this. Then we have a team talk, and then we have the game again. We are only going to focus on these, the part of where we prepare on the team and when we're going to go in playing the game. That's the thing that we're going to talk about today. Maybe a little bit long introduction, but this way I think you have a good feel of what part of the week we're looking at, which elements that we're going to be talking about to prepare our team, and what are the principles that we're going to try, that we want to try and tell and bring over to our team. Emily will tell you a little bit about what her role then would be as being a performance analyst if we would work on this together. I will give the screen to Emily.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Hi again, all of you. Yeah, but I want to continue a little bit on what Rein already told you. How you should see this is that Rein and I, we would be working together. He's the head coach of the team and I would be his performance analyst. And I'm going to tell you a bit how I would support him to make his job a little bit easier. For that to be possible, what's important is that I know very well what my role is. So for me as a performance analyst, I see my role a little bit double. I have responsibilities towards my coaching staff and my head coach. That's on the short term and middle long term. We want to win the next game. My second responsibility is towards my club or my federation. They are more interested in information on middle, long, and long term. They want to see how do we perform comparing to Germany in the last 4 years. What will we be benchmarking for in the next 5 years? What will be important statistics? So that's more for federation or club. Why they want consistency. Let's say we change coaches. We don't want to lose all the information, but continue on it. So that's one part. The other part would be that responsibility towards the coaches. And there I want to make sure that my coaching staff can work as efficiently as possible. Especially now, for example, in Germany, where you play 2 games 2 days in a row, turnaround is very quickly. And now Rein, he showed you some very nice examples, but if you're alone as a head coach, it's very difficult to find those moments quickly after the game and have enough time to discuss them and find the right ones. So a good performance analyst will help you get those moments quicker after a game and make you win time and work more efficiently. So what's then my responsibility towards a head coach is I want to so help him find those examples of his principles as fast as possible, so on his own team. The second part is I want to give him as much information as possible on opponents that we might play against. That's general information. How do they play? Do they play 4 at the back, 3 at the back? But maybe also give them some information, which of our principles can work well against them, or what can we do there? So what I'm going to show you here is a little bit how you can do that and what is all possible. If you want more details on specifically how this works on software based or something, make sure to ask me later, but I don't want to make it too technical at this moment. So how do I start with this? So for me, I'm also going to share my screen so I can show you a little bit. Okay, you can see it?
Yeah, it looks...
Yeah.
Perfect. So for me to assist my coach, I need to have video footage. So there's also the difference in the languages. So either you are a cameraman or camera woman, then you film the game and you give raw footage after the game to your staff and they need to do all the work. That's when for me you are a cameraman and that's what you do. And that's where your job finishes. If you then go a little bit further in the role and you become a video analyst, what you do then is that by using some software, you would add codes to a game. So you would watch a game either live from a tower behind the goal or after the game, and you would add some clips to that game. So I have an example of how you can do that. So this is a code screen. For a very basic game, what I would do is I would code the outlet moments of team 1, the outlet moments of team 2. Automatically, that would create the press of the opposite team. And same for circle entries, corners, whatever the basics of hockey are and that you find important. Something I added here is you can add labels, which means, for example, in a circle entry, I could add whether you enter the circle from the left, from the middle, or the right. So this is basic stuff, and this is what I would call the work of a video analyst. It's not about principles. Anybody can do this. You don't need to know the tactics. This is just what you see live during the game. What would come out of that? If you do that, this is what I would hand over to a coach after the game. He would get the game. So this is the footage. And with that, he will get a timeline, some codes. So he would get from each team when they enter 25, the circle, turnover moments, those kind of things. This is what he would get. This is already a bit more advanced. The coaching window that I use for that is, I think this one. Nope. That's this one. So it has a little bit more information than the one that I showed you. This is more what I would do for a national team. And this one works with ball starts. A ball start is the same as a free hit in a certain zone. Zone 1 is what we call your defensive 25. Zone 4 is your attacking 25. So again, what comes out of that? So if you do that as a video analyst, you hand over to your coach a file in which you can easily find all the penalty corners back, he can click on that and he can find the penalty corners of his team. Already, of course, this makes his work easier and helps him work more fluently. If you then want to go even to the next step and really become a performance analyst, then you need that connection with your head coach. So then if I would work with Rein, that would mean we have some meetings. He explains me the principles that he finds important, the principles that he likes to work on for in general for the whole season, but also game per game. As a performance analyst, it's important you are in the meetings before and after the game. You try and join as much as possible. Because if you do that, that means that you can add some extra information to your coding. So what I would do for Rein, if I would be his performance analyst, I would add some extra codes. I would add codes that are specific to his principles. So this is a bit the same as what you saw in his little round. And this can help him find his moments much quicker. So let's say I have good connection with Rein and we work well together. I know what his principles are, and I see the game, and I see a moment where we were too easily pressed. It was not good from us in our outlet. I can click this button, and it will create automatically a clip that he can use in a briefing. How do you do this? So it's either a good connection and some experience, but there are also some things you can do if you're just starting. The easiest way to do this if you start is just to have a special button. This is a very easy way to get connection with your head coach. And you can do it in two ways. Either you have a headset and you are connected with your head coach, and he can just tell you live during the game, Emily, special. I can click that button and these moments in the game are created. With a lot of coaches, 90% of the clips that they will show after a game will come from this line, will be moments that live during the game he felt were not going well and he wants to improve, or things that were very good and he wants to show again to his team. So that's one way to do it. It's either with a headset and just being in connection. A second way is, as I told you, if I as a performance analyst see it myself, that I have the freedom to click on those buttons when I think it's necessary. A third way, if your analyst doesn't have this possibility yet or isn't able to do this himself, is to have somebody on the bench or near the bench with an iPad and also some software on it. And we can create the same thing as we created here. We can also create that on an iPad. So then somebody can just click on those moments and then you can add it to the video later. Again, if you want more information on how this works, you can ask me afterwards, but it is also a possibility. Just to add to that, if it's too difficult to do all at the same time, make the right choices. The most important thing is that you film well, because the video, you can't replay the game and do it again. The coding, you can do as many times again as you want. So make sure that you choose the right thing to do if you struggle. So again, I show you a bit how it ends. So this is what I would give Rein if I was just a video analyst. And now for me, if I'm a performance analyst, what I add for him is these last 8 rows. This is really his principles with some good examples in there that he can show and use. And this is really what makes him win a lot of time. So he already knows, okay, I have to choose from these two. I need to choose the best one to show to my team instead of having to go through all turnovers and win balls to find those right moments. So that's a bit how I try and help my coaching staff. I'm gonna close my screen just for a while. Okay. So that's a bit what I try and do for my coaches to make them win time. Important for that is just that if you want to be a performance analyst and really add those last details, you have to know what he finds important. So you need to spend the time to watch the training sessions, join the meetings, and make that investment within the team. It's a bit double, it asks more investment, but it also makes you feel more part of the coaching staff rather than just being a video analyst who is just at the tower and then never is with the team. So that's a little bit the balance that you need to find. Then I think that's a bit what we needed to go through. unless you think of
Yeah.
something to add.
So at my club, we also have a situation, also because of the travel, that we do not always have a performance analyst traveling with us. We work with an iPad. A lot of coaches in the German league, for example, use their iPhone. So they just stand at the field with their iPhone, where they just press the special button the entire game, which makes it easy for them to cope with this, and then still have the raw information to share with their team. That might be an interesting tip for anyone who wants to coach in the future. So we talked about what we can show, and now the question is when we want to show it and when we want to bring this across. Typically, you would have 2 or 3 team meetings just to go about information and to prepare your team for a game. You usually start with Debrief, where we present our opponent. That's usually where the work from Emily also comes in. And you would show your team opportunities where your game could benefit from your opponent's approach. So you're going to show them what's typical from what our opponent does, where would be chances for us, what do we need to do, or what do we need to take away from them so that we could play according to our own principles, according to our that we can play our own game. A lot of the time, people forget to talk about how they're going to score goals against a certain team. So it's very easy to analyze what your opponent does, but in the end, how are you going to score goals? Which principle or principles are going to benefit you the most for a certain game? And although this are already 4 points, try to also keep it short and simple. So I always say, or I'm a firm believer that it's better to show 1 good clip rather than 5 mediocre clips.
Rein, if I can come in there for a second.
Yes.
That's something I said already on the first part, is your video has to be well filmed. That's also always the most important. And also as a coach, maybe you remember from the game a perfect moment and you want to show it to your team. If it's on the other side of the field and you can't really see it well, or it isn't filmed properly, don't show it. Even if it's a perfect example, if the video quality is not good, just make the tough decision and leave it out.
Absolutely. Also the brief, except for the fact that this is a certain team talk that you have, it's also important on when you plan this brief. Would you brief your team during game day for the first time, Emily, or how would you prefer to go about this?
Yeah, we prefer with every team to do it at least the day before, and even ideally 2 days before, to give everybody some time to digest the information. If you have to give new information on game day, it will just be very, very difficult. So I know it's not possible at every level to do it on a Friday night or something like that. But we've also done at the club is captured ourselves doing the briefing already 2 days in advance on a video, sending it to the team on Friday. So they have the time on Saturday, for example, to have a look at it. And then on Sunday, repeat some stuff. I don't think all the players look at it, but the players that need it will probably use it. And even if it's 1 or 2 of your team, it can really make a difference.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there also a level in, of course, the national team and the club team? You already said, Rein, that you don't always have an analyst with you every game. How do you how can it? Yeah, how do you? Is the level so big actually between the national games in a club team?
What do you mean?
Yeah, Emily also said, sometimes a national team can also be more special, more analyzed than a club team. Is the level between those two big or not?
I think there is a difference in there's definitely a difference in level that also has to do with the amount of time that your players and the staff can spend on something. Usually at a national team, you have a performance analyst. Not every club team has that. Still, it is still possible to get a certain infrastructure, that you get an efficient way of working, and that you get a lot of information by, for example, sharing with your opponent, or getting your manager, or, for example, in our situation, our substitute goalie to code at the spot, which will make it easier to digest information after the game as a coach. But there's definitely a big difference. Nevertheless, even if there's a difference, try to focus on the things that are important, and that would make a difference for you as a coach to win a game.
Okay. Yep, go on.
So a brief is something else than a game talk. The game talk is, for me, something that happens before the game, preferably in the locker room with the team. During game day, of course, you can recap the things that you discussed in a brief, maybe on an individual level, maybe per line. Let's say talk with the defenders about what are their focus points that we informed them about in the brief. But still, before the game, during game day, I think that we have a lot of hockey players in this talk as well. Most players are concerned with themselves anyway, and they're not really listening that well. So, as Emily already said, you don't want to give them too much new information. The main focus of a team talk should be, what will it take for us to achieve our goal this game? And that is pretty much the difference between knowing what to do. That's the information that you want to give during a brief, versus focusing on what to do. Like just getting your focus on the task that's at hand. So the game talk, anything that you talk about during the game, players probably don't listen all the time anyway, because they're already with their minds where they want to be. So you have to focus on getting their mindset right, and getting the mindset of the majority of your team, or preferably your entire team, in such a way that you can approach the game, that you can achieve your goal this game, whether it is to draw, whether it's to win, whether it's to get a certain amount of circle penetration. Whatever the focus is, during your game talk, that's what you should try to get the mindset on. Is there a certain role for, would it make any sense to add video material during a game, during such a talk, Emily? Or how would you approach?
The only moments where I think it's helpful, it's in big moments, especially with national teams, where I've seen it in the youth. It's to get a bit of a good feeling, is you can use it as a little motivational video. That's the moment I think you could do something like that. I'm not the biggest fan of it personally, because I think it's something that you do once in a season, because after that you lose a bit of the special thing about it. But that's where I would use maybe video material in that game talk.
Yeah. And that again is also focused on getting the mindset right. So getting a good feeling. And then there's the debrief, which is, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? And you want to talk about the principles that you had during this game. I think the interesting part about the debrief is, when you plan this, when you want to have this talk, some way you want to close off the game, so you want to get some closure. The question, of course, is when would be the best suited time for that? I know when I started coaching, I feel very old saying this, but after a game, you would always have, and also as a player, a coach that would talk for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, analyze what was good, what wasn't good. You should have played the ball on that side. There was a great goal, whatever you want to talk about. And a lot of coaches already start debriefing or analyzing the game on the field. I think an analysis of a game needs a little bit of time and needs to have the emotion taken out of it. So a debrief would typically take place on a later time than directly after the game. So I am personally not a biggest fan of hanging out on the pitch for too long. So have your little moment, close it off. Maybe once or twice a season you can talk a little bit longer because that's the message you want to bring across. But the debrief should be a separate moment where you can take the emotions out of your team talk and you can talk about what did we do well and what didn't we do well. Since our work as a coach is always very result oriented, it's very easy to talk about the goals, the corners that you got or conceived. However, we talked about the principles that we have. It's also very important to always look back to your principles during a debrief, because otherwise your team's probably not going to take you that serious if you go about your principles in such a manner. I think during a debrief, the role of the performance analyst is very big and therefore very important. Maybe Emily can tell a couple of things about how she would go about such a talk.
Yeah, so what I think is important, what I give as information to my head coach, he has to be able to find it quickly and in structure. So he needs to find within his principles what he wants to show as an example. If my structure isn't clear, the risk we take as a coaching staff is that we're going to talk about an outlet and a press and then a corner and then a PC defense, and then we go all over the place. The more structure I can bring in my analysis to the staff, the more clear they will give it then again to the team. So it is divided within our 4 principles and we only talk about that. And the more clear you make it for your team, so let's say you want to show something about what you said about defending the 4 lines, put that as a title on your video, because that means in that clip that maybe takes 30 seconds, there will be other things going wrong or going very well. And if you want to prevent your players to start asking questions about something that is in that clip but is not important, if you put a title on this is the principle we're talking about, you also guide them in the direction of the questions that you want to get, and not the what if questions. Yeah, but what if he was standing 10 centimeters to the left? And you prevent those kind of questions if you show very clearly what principle you are talking about.
So I think the main thing is, if you would prepare your team, that you think about what message you want to bring across, what's the best timing to bring those points across, and why you should talk about the things that you want to talk about. I think it's very easy to work with principles because it will give structure, and structure will usually always help you to prepare your team a little bit more for whatever game or challenge is going to be ahead of them. I think that would be the main part that we would like to share with you, or could share with you for today. I don't know if there are any questions or.
I maybe want to add one last thing, if possible. If I hear people talk about performance analysis, there's also often a lot of panic of, oh, we don't have those people in our staff, or we don't have the possibility within the club. I think start very simple. If you can have somebody filming the game, and that can be a youngster from the club, they're probably better with a camera than anyone else anyway. They do it all day. It can even be with a little phone, even with an iPad, and you film 15 minutes of the game, it can be enough. And then find people within your competition that do it. So I know, for example, in Belgium, there are teams from the second and third division. They have somebody filming, and then on Sunday, they just send the video to an analyst from somebody in the higher league, and we can code those games for them, and we do it, and it's a collaboration that we have. So it is really possible. You don't need that much to start with some video analysis. So don't be scared to start using it for your team.
Well, that's cool, Emily. I think that's also something that grew during the last years. I'm not sure. How do you see that? The evolution of analyzing games, for example?
Yeah, I think it was first only the top teams that would do it, but we've just seen that throughout all the leagues, and especially youth, then the top youth started doing it as well, and even younger youth that play on small pitches. If you can just show them one or two examples of something they do well, it just sticks. Kids these days, if they can see something on a screen, it is so much more clear than when you draw a little dot on a whiteboard and you draw an arrow. It's if they can see themselves, that's what they get. They start liking, and then you share that with them, and they look up their own clips and they want to see the goal they scored. That's how it starts. But then within the national team now, it's never the coach that tells the boys to come and watch the games. I'm in my hotel room and they knock on my door. They say, "Emily, can we watch the game?" And that's where you want to get to, I think.
Yeah, and on the level gets better and better also, because you get more the focus on the faults, I think, and then yeah, I think that's also benefit for the sport, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I have a question for Emily. Thanks for everything. It's really nice, the talk. So we are here with some Argentinian coaches, and so I will translate some questions. They want to know how you transfer all the conclusions to like every player, the conclusion of the analysis video.
So I'm not making promotion for any software here, but we use a Huddle Sports Code. So that's the software we use. And they also have a platform online. And so every player is in that team. I upload the game on there and they can see all those codes. And what's really nice is they can comment. So they see a clip and they comment, "Why are you standing on the right side? You're not standing in the hotline." A next player can comment. And to be honest, we do that more in club level, because in the national team, we are often a month away together. So we do it more face to face. But in club during the week, that's a very, very useful tool. Yeah.
And other question, if have you ever used the program Analyst?
No, that's I haven't heard of that. I'm also in hockey. 99% works with sports code, and from 10 years ago I've never used any other software. So
Okay, good. Thanks.
Worries.
Thank you, Paulina. Yeah, if people still want to ask questions afterwards, don't hesitate to send Emily and Rein on their Instagram. They will be happy to answer your questions. So that's. I have one more question for Rein, actually. What I mainly remembered from your presentation, super interesting, by the way, is that the principles are like super important. Is that something you decide with a team every week, or is it something upfront on the season? How the year is gonna develop, or can it change, or what is it? Can you tell me more about that?
I think principles never change from week to week, so they're a principle all the time thing. Principles, however, do come from the team and that have to be suited to the team that you work with. If I want to play to his strength,
So
this is also the principles, or they don't
put all the principles together in front of them, and then work every week hard to, like you said.
Yeah. So during the season, we would have different phases where we try to work on different principles, and principles might be added during, like, for example, we might develop a quality in our counterattack, and that might become a certain principle. So based on how far we are in our development, add one principle or maybe take one away that we say